Hey all, Mythic Rare here. Thank you to all my A1 Day 1 subscribers. I can't believe that there are 350 something of you. Like, the number just keeps on getting bigger and bigger. I absolutely love it. Also, public service announcement. I am not going to provide any commentary on the aviation things that have happened as of late. I do not have any flight hours to speak of, real life or in Microsoft Simulator. I don't even think that my computer can run that game actually. But needless to say, I'm not gonna comment on it. I know I've said in the past that I'm an airline worker. I have kept my feet on the ground the whole entire time that I've been on the industry. So I feel like if I were to add my perspective, it would be wildly inappropriate, disrespectful, and hurtful to all of those involved. So I'm just, to speak plain, I'm not even going to go there. Please check out the NTSB or check out the news for the latest happenings with that. So yeah, the reason why you guys haven't heard from me in a couple of months in terms of a weapon chat is because we've been going through a lot with computers, like a lot. My computer was 13 years old. I'm sure that some of you can kind of feel that pain or know like the pain of what that is like to edit on a 13-year-old machine. My computer kind of like messed up twice while I was filming State of the Stash, or rather while I was editing State of the Stash. So, yeah, like it is really bittersweet, but that video and the unboxing of Down the Rabbit Hole by Margaret Morales were like the last videos that I edited on the old computer. I want to take you back to the very beginning of the story with that computer, so then you all can truly appreciate like what a milestone this is. So back in the late 2000s, I was gonna be graduating high school. I was in, I forget the name of the actual class, but it was an AP science class. It offered dual enrollment in community college and stuff. Like, within the first 2 weeks of class, we extracted DNA from a strawberry. We put said DNA in an agarose gel. We put an electric current through the gel, and we got the DNA fingerprint from the strawberry. I'm sure like it's child's play for those who actually do forensics, but yeah, like that was like the hardest of lab-based classes that my school had to offer. It had a lot of research papers and things like that due in it. I was constantly taking up the computer for hours at a time, and nobody could call us or get a hold of us unless it was on one of our cell phones, because back then when my parents had dial-up, like your computer, oh yeah, like a whole bunch of 80s kids, 90s kids, like, y'all are nodding your heads, like, you know, it just, like, it makes the sound and it goes. Yeah, so, like, nobody could get a hold of us. It could potentially be, you know, like, a safety thing, because, you know, in case, because I had some, like, elderly relatives, in case something happened with them, it just wasn't a good idea. So my parents got broadband, so then, you know, people could still call us, and then it was a little bit faster than what I had. So I was at least having a little bit easier of a time with my schoolwork because I wasn't having to wait as long on the internet. And then after I graduate high school, I get accepted into community college, and I take my placements for it. My parents give me a Sony Vaio laptop, and I am calling this thing the little laptop that could, because it had an Intel Core 2 Duo processor, it had 4 gigs of RAM, a CD, DVD drive. It was like the first generation of discrete NVIDIA graphics cards that had, like, CUDA cores. Like, yeah, like, it was actually a pretty big deal. And it was a big deal to me, considering when I came from before that was the family computer that was a Windows XP that was a Pentium 4. Yeah. So I was constantly on this thing. Like, I was, if I wasn't working, like, as in at my day job, pretending to do schoolwork, actually doing schoolwork, I was playing League of Legends. Like, just straight up, I was playing League of Legends. And I had beta tested some games over the summer and wrote reports for any bugs, and I actually did something a little challenging. I installed a Touhou emulator on it. Didn't even have an English pack at the time. Had to just, like, kind of guess what things did, because I do not know how to read Japanese. And this was, of course, long before Touhou actually came to Steam and was a part of the Steam marketplace. And I installed the emulator for Final Fantasy VII, the original one. But I was happy with it, like, all throughout community college, and then, like, there were some days where, don't even ask me how it happened, but at the time, it was Quest, or, like, QS out there in Phoenix. But there was one time where the internet, like, just kept dropping in our house, so I would, like, power cycle the modem, right? Like, turn it off, wait 30 seconds, turn it back on again. Or, like, unplug it from the wall for 30 seconds, plug it back in again. And it wouldn't work. And it would just have, like, a red light on it. And after a call to QS, they had told me, we think that you had blown a capacitor inside of the modem. We need to send you out a new one. It's going to take 2 days. Worst 2 days of my life. But you know what got me through? Those emulators. Like, that was the only thing that helped me survive, because it was like, I was working 4 hours a day during the summer. Like, what was I gonna do with the other, like 6.5 or so hours that I'd be awake? Like, I'd just be bored. So, yeah, like this little computer has saved me a time or two, and it was all good up until I got to the big university and I started learning Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator, and then I had a class for Adobe Premiere, and then a class for photography and Lightroom, and at one point animate. Yeah, like pick a class and you would have to use Creative Cloud for it. So what wound up happening, because I was starting to run into one of those situations where I leave my computer out, like, on the kitchen table, like, running the power cord over to the wall and stuff, and my dad goes to poke it, and I'm like, do not touch it, it's rendering, and he's like, it's been here for 2 hours. Yeah, it is still rendering. Like, he has literally seen me hit, like, that brick wall, and he felt bad, so he saved up $500, and he wound up giving that to me for Christmas of 2012, and I was good. I didn't blow it immediately on, like, League of Legends skins or clothes or shoes or purses or anime figures. Like, I kept the $500, and I waited until after Christmas, and I found a ASUS M11BB inside of Best Buy that was just under the $500 price point. Like, taxes were gonna take me a little bit over, but it had 8 gigs of RAM, it had 1 terabyte hard drive, a CD, Blu-ray. It was the first AMD CPU with integrated graphics. Like, for what I was getting, coming from a Windows XP and a little Windows 7 laptop, like, getting 8 and then, like, getting almost like a 2x, like, upgrade, it was huge for me, and I didn't mind coming out of my pocket a little bit to bring that thing home. I straight up remember hugging the box for my desktop for like a good 5 minutes before I decided to unbox the thing and get it set up. So this desktop got me through the remainder of my college days. I played a ton of League on it. It actually even outlasted my friend group playing League at the time. So, like, this was back during the mid 2010s. Like, we're talking about 2014 or so, when all of the Korean teams for esports are just, like, taking over and things, and like, that was when, at least for me, League had reached, like, its peak toxicity. I didn't want to play the game, but I felt so alone that I decided to keep on playing it anyways because misery loves company, and I was in a friend group of other miserable college kids and like high school kids, so like, you know, at least I wasn't alone. But even then, it's like it reached that point to where I was just like, I need to leave. And then unfortunately my grandma passed away in October of 2014, so then I was like, okay, now I super need to leave, and I super feel a certain way about this group, like I'm just not. So 2015, I wind up saying a New Year's resolution: we're not playing League this year, like at all, like period. Do not pass go, do not collect 200. um So I just go ghost, and I just quit cold turkey. And like there would be days like I would remember I would just like sit there twiddling my thumbs, staring at the walls, being like, I want to play League, but it is like friend toxic. Nah, like what do I do? So I discovered this place called YouTube. Well, actually, I already discovered it, but I decided to like really go down YouTube rabbit holes, and I learned that there are other more lightweight things besides Photoshop that you can use to draw and like make pretty pictures with. Like I discovered Paint Tool Sai. Um I discovered like all kinds of tutorials and things with Copic markers and colored pencils, and I had a incredible time creating things, and I was just having a blast. But without, you know, being able to play games, I felt like there was also in a way kind of this hole inside me, because I wanted to play games, but I didn't have anybody who I could play games with without getting toxic. So I decide to fill that time with anime, and at this point I'm on Crunchyroll just like watching everything. Everything that's on like their most popular page, with the exception of One Piece, because that is an insanely long anime. Um and purely for that reason it's an insanely long anime. I yeah, like I watched everything. Friends at school were trying to get me back into League of Legends. I was saying no, thank you. Um, People were actually even trying to get me back into World of Warcraft because they needed one more person, and I was like, no, thank you. And part of that is because, um, like, they just needed one more person, and I kind of felt like, well, I haven't played in a year. My skills are not gonna be what they used to be. Also, you're just looking for one more meat shield to like fill the gap. Like I am so not down to be that one more person. So I just like kept on going about my business, and then like finally there were some other people, like both at school and then at work. They were like, well, why don't you play 14? Like have you not consider it? And then I'm just like, well, I mean, like 14, I thought that Square Enix was mainly like console based, and then they're just like, yeah, up until 11, but 11 finally finished, and now they're like on to 14 now. And I'm just like, oh wow, okay. So I go and I watch the trailer for Final Fantasy 14, and I absolutely love it. But I was back at the time when I discovered it. it was like October of 2015 at this point. I still had a little bit of the fall semester and all of the spring semester, and I'm just like, I am just gonna wait on this. I'm just gonna work on my senior project. I'm gonna finish my dissertation, because as soon as I am done, as soon as my professor confirms that they have it, they have my assignment, my very last assignment ever, possibly for the rest of my life, I will download this game. And that is exactly what I did. Is as soon as I got confirmation in my email that they have received my assignment, I immediately screenshot that and I download the game. And because I didn't know at the time that power line adapters for internet existed, I was just doing this purely off of the Wi-Fi in the house, and it took forever. It took 24 hours. But oh my God, was it worth it? So this pre-built desktop has, at this point, like, we're getting into the middle of summer 2016. It has lasted me through A Realm Reborn and most of Heavensward at this point. But I couldn't finish the Heavensward expansion because of the fight with Nidhogg. Every single time I would get to a certain spot and I would just be dropping frames like crazy. And I was just let go from my student worker position at the university because I had graduated. So it wasn't even my fault. It was just, an act of attrition. You're a student worker, you're no longer a student. Yes, take your leave now. And it was right before I have the airline job that I have currently. So the young 20-something me wanted to go RGB because I was tired of having just the static red or blue colors, and I was seeing like all the fancy things that people could do. And at that time, I had already replaced my cheapy little headset to a Kraken V2. I had the Razer Black Widow Chroma V2. I had the Naga V2. So I have like all the RGB accessories, and I kind of wanted like my computer to match. But at the time, that was also when people were trying to Bitcoin mine their way out of a 9-to-5. Like, so that they wouldn't have to work or whatever a day in their life. Like, not, I'm sure there are some out there who have achieved it, but, like, just people trying to mine digital currency like that, they were driving up the cost of video cards, and it was a hot mess. But with the little money that I did have still in the bank, I got upgraded to 16 gigs of RAM, and I also decided to add in a AMD XFX RX 484 gig graphics card. And then my CPU randomly started shutting down. So I took the graphics card out and found out that my computer system was much more stable. And then that's when I discovered a channel called Linus Tech Tips. And I started binging. And then I found Jay's 2 cents, and I started binging some more. So quickly, I learned to ditch the default power supply unit and I got an upgraded power supply unit, but now my temps were way too hot. So I had to undervolt my CPU, and I still couldn't beat Nidhogg because I basically told my computer, you can only draw this much out of the wall. And the fight with Nidhogg was asking for more power than what I will let my computer draw from the wall. Like, it was putting it under that much load, so then I could never finish the fight. And it was about this time when I got hired with my current employer. So I was busy with being onboarded. I had left home for a length of time to go to their training facility. I come back, I come to the call center, I take calls, and I think it was within the first check after coming home and working in the call center is when I decided to buy a high airflow PC case. I am just like, high temperatures, what are they? Along with 4 case fans and a fan controller. So I take the PC and all of the parts. Well, I didn't take all the fans and the fan controller. I left that for when I got back home. But I took the actual, the new tower and the tower with everything in it. Took it over to my cousin's house in Scottsdale and her husband. They helped me by taking my motherboard out of the pre-built desktop case and putting it into the big high airflow case. And then that polished pre-built served me really well, especially after I got the touchscreen fan controller put in for one of the expansion bays up in the front of it. And I got all of the fans to light up blue. So at least in that regard, I matched. And it had served me well. I finally defeated Nidhogg, as well as the Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward expansion. I go on to beat Xenosaga Galvis at the end of Stormblood. I beat the man, child, baby in Yulmore at the end of Shadowbringers. And I beat the BBEG at the end of Endwalker. Not gonna say what that one is because even though we're on 7, some people are still trying to get through 6. I'm not gonna spoil that for them. So there have been many games that Alex and I have played on Steam on that old computer. And we went for who knows how many hours long in Risk of Rain 2, Warframe, Terraria. And it was all good until I looked at the system requirements for Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, and I said, well, I don't even hit the minimums. Guess I am sitting that one out. But 14 is, it's always been like one of the better games that you can. It's kind of, I don't know. It's one of those games where it's not like Battlefield 2 or Far Cry 6 or Cyberpunk 2077. It's not like one of those things where like everybody flocks to benchmark it, but you know, a few people will use it as like one of those tertiary things. Like if they don't want to use Heaven, they'll use that, or they'll use AC Valhalla, something like that, for the more cinematic games. And I am just like, wow, I don't even hit the minimums. Like, I wouldn't even be able to run the benchmark. Jeez. And, you know, at the time, like, because now we're holiday season of 2024, I'm, like, trying to get together State of the Stash, and my computer is deciding to quit on me, like, not once but twice, just for whatever reason. It just, like, randomly shuts down and restarts. No warnings, no updates, just like, hey, you, I see you trying to edit. Go take a walk and go touch grass. Like, basically. So there was that. That was, like, really, really making me mad. And then he's like, well, why don't you take a break? Like, let's go do some Minecraft. On Feed the Beast, I was just perusing through things. I found Direwolf. Like, I think you would really like it. Please, like, let's just go. So, I load into Direwolf. I punch a tree. And I crashed a title. I think you understand where this was going. But there is a whole entire other side to this story. And this is Alex's. Keep in mind, again, told from my point of view, so I might have a few of the details misremembered or a tad inaccurate, since I've slept since some of these things have happened. But pretty much, this is kind of the story of how Alex got his current computer. It was a chilly December day, or night rather, in Phoenix. We were just days away from Christmas, and I had just recently been in a car accident. This was back in 2019, and I barely had 2 dimes to rub together because of said accident. I was staying late in the call center again, trying to make sure that there were enough hours on my check to cover the deductible for the insurance. And this was back in the early days of Alex and I just getting to know each other. I was in the middle of booking some last minute holiday travel for a family, and I see Alex was messaging me repeatedly on my phone, and like on my mobile phone, like not on my call center phone. He was saying it was urgent. So after my call was finished, I put myself in unavailable, and I walk off the sales floor with my mobile phone. I call him, and the first thing he says is, Jen, it's dead. And I'm like, huh, what? And then he's like, my computer. I was just like, oh no. Wait, why is your computer dead? And he said, well, you know how you were complaining the other day that there was going to be this ice storm that was going to come through the middle of the country, and you're getting like flights canceled in already because of it? Well, remember how I'm like in the middle of Oklahoma? I'm in that with no power. My dad decided to bust out the generator and he has to backfeed it through the dryer hookup. And he kind of did something wrong because he fried my computer. Oh no. So, what are you going to do? Alex says, I'm at Best Buy looking for computers, and the one that I want is $700. And I'm just like, yikes. Well, as you know, I don't have that much in the bank, but I will see what I can do. I need to head back to the phones. I will call you on my next break. So I continue to take calls, and then I remember I haven't used my perfect attendance points for anything in a long time. So, like, we could pick, and we still have them, by the way, for the people that I work for. So, like, we can pick, like, gift cards or, like, fashion items, electronics, like, you name it, but you get taxed on it for your check. So, I don't, like, tend to use that very often. So, but for Alex, I decide, why not? We'll just work a few more hours. We'll maybe pick up like another half day some other time, and we'll get it. So I cash in enough to get a $200 Best Buy gift card. An e-gift card. I send that over to his email, and then when I called him on my last break, I found out that his parents were going to give him a couple $100. I had already contributed a $200 gift card, and one of his brothers gave him $400. So the very next day, Alex went back to the Best Buy, and after taxes, he had just enough to get his new computer. We played many hours of 14 together, and League of Legends, yes, he dragged me back to League for a very brief amount of time, and then they decided to basically make it so that even saying the words hi was a toxic and punishable offense. So we decided to leave. But yeah, we played new games. Like, we had a new game at least once a month. It was super frustrating because I do not pick up on games as quickly as he was, but I was happy to see him exploring like all kinds of new genres that he had been locked out of because he didn't have a computer that was quite up to snuff. Um, and it was all good for him until he got the MetaQuest 2 and started exploring the medium of VR. It's now the end of August 2024, approaching September, and he was like starting to see fuzziness in some of his VR games and like dropping connection and all that other nonsense. So what I decided to do, since he already had the Corsair RAM from his birthday like a year or two ago, is I decide, why not make everything else Corsair in the case, because then all the RGB is going to match. So I get him the Corsair H100X Elite all-in-one cooler. I get him the Corsair Commander Core fan controller. I get him a EVGA Supernova 850 watt 80 plus gold power supply unit. And here's why. Because I got him a XFS Speedster Quick 319 Radeon RX 6750 XT graphics card. And we actually had to take measurements for that thing to make sure it would fit in his already existing case. Because, yeah, that was like $700 worth of parts right there. And how we did this was after work on a Friday night, like immediately, like, took only 30 minutes to eat dinner, and then, like, we got the ball rolling on that bad boy. We took a picture of the computer fully assembled. We carried his computer out to the dining room table, and I'm like standing there with like a mask on and the air duster, and I'm just like air dusting the blazes out of this thing. And whatever could be wiped down with a alcohol wet wipe, we did. We basically got a few years of dust built up on his computer, wiped off. It looked as good as new. We took off his stock cooler. We took off the old thermal paste. We put on new. We put on the water block for the all-in-one liquid cooler, and we installed that in the case first. Next, what we did was we installed the graphics card, and then we installed the power supply. And at some point, because like we had quite literally taken quite a huge chunk out of the case and we had to wind up disconnecting things and such, we were having a struggle trying to wire manage and put everything back together. So first, after we close the side of the case and we plug everything in, we hit the switch on the breaker, we press power, and the computer remains dark, and we're just like, oh fuck. So the both of us just went into a complete tailspin, freaking out the remainder of that weekend, because my goal was he had a long weekend coming up. It was gonna be Labor Day. Like, I wanted this thing up and like ready to go for him. So one of our first thoughts were, what if the electrostatic discharge fried the computer? And then I'm like thinking back through all my steps, like, well, it couldn't have been, because we made sure to be touching the case the whole entire time, or like other things metal, and I was wearing rubber slides at the time. Like there's no possible way. And then we were thinking, well, you know, I think at some point we had to take the RAM out, or what if it wasn't seated correctly? So we pulled the RAM sticks out, we plugged them back in, and the computer was still dark. So then we were thinking, well, what if the graphics card wasn't seated right? So we pulled the graphics card out of its slot, and then we pressed it down really good into its slot, and then we heard a click that we didn't hear the first time. We pressed the power button, still nothing. It was going on midnight, and family members were getting frustrated with us taking up the kitchen. So Saturday, late night. Like, it was Saturday late night at that point. We're still, like, not done with it. And Alex and I decide to move the computer to the folding card table in his room. And we just leave it overnight. We go to bed. We get breakfast. We get coffee. We're coming back to it with a fresh set of eyes. And I'm just like, Alex, I know you're probably going to think that I'm crazy, but we need to disassemble it. And before we even go to put things in the case, we plug things up on the motherboard and at least keep some of the parts outside of the case and see, like, as a unit, do the parts even work together? When we did that, we pressed the power button. Everything still didn't work. And then when we looked at the motherboard at, like, the very, very bottom of it, like the bottom edge right beneath where the slot for the graphics card is, like, yeah, that very bottom row, we saw that the power button was just straight up not plugged into the board. And then it's like, oh, yeah, that might make sense. Like, we both just had a Homer Simpson, like, no, like, kind of moment. Like, yeah, of course. Of course. Like, why wouldn't we have the power button plugged into the motherboard? Like, duh. So we plug that in, and sure enough, everything fires up. And then we're just like, okay, so as long as we get everything installed in the case now, we should be fine. And somehow I kind of messed up the wiring on the fans. I didn't complete the circuit the right way with them. So, like, the fans were all just, like, stuck on blue or, like, stuck on red. Like, they'd just be stuck on one singular color on the case. But everything else was spinning and working. And Alex just learned to live with it. And then he kind of gotten bitten by the bug at that point because he had had so much fun during the upgrade process of the computer that he decided to scrimp and scrape and save for a new computer for Christmas. So what I wind up doing is I wind up ordering him the Lian Li 011 dynamic case. I got him 2 fan controllers and $90 worth of fans. And these aren't just any fans. Like, these fans have infinity mirrors on them, so that when you stare at them, it's like you're almost like looking through the fan, like, into the void. It is like the coolest thing that you could possibly do with, like, RGB fans. Like these things are sick. And then he was trying to get away with his H100i Corsair cooler at the time, and, like, it was holding up in games and stuff, but he's like, you know, I, like, really, really want to go hard on Monster Hunter Wilds. When he had his wave of parts come in just after getting dumped on by Winter Storm Blair, we had a 7800 X3D chip. We had the Lian Li Hydro Shift 360 millimeter AIO, along with, like, $90 worth of, like, more fans. But because these fans have like that infinity screen, infinity mirror on them. That's what makes them the $30 a pop, by the way, is that like that cool effect that it does. But he got all of those parts together, and he even got RAM too and stuff. The only two things that he kept from like the old computer, like the previous upgrade that we did, was the graphics card and the power supply. Like everything else was completely brand new, and that was an absolute joy to build in his case. It was so easy to cable manage in there. The build itself was like relatively straightforward. We went ham Friday, and like a part of Saturday, and we managed to get his computer up and running like Saturday night, which was epic. In the same weekend, cause he had said like, I'm gonna give you X amount of money, like go make do and get yourself a new computer. So at first I was like saying, hey, like I'd even be happy to get your CPU. Like, this is totally fine. And then he's like, no, we're getting you a better CPU. Like, you just gotta, and I'm getting you a better case and a better power supply. Like, you just need to come up with the rest. So I put motherboard on pay in 4. I get his H100i Corsair thing, and then because I'm editing videos for the channel, I'm just like, I'm gonna need more RAM than 32 gigs. So I found the matching, well, not exactly matching, but like a close enough match to his RAM. It's like a slightly faster version of his RAM that has had to pump the brakes on itself a little bit to match up with the other two sticks. But I have 64 gigs of RAM now. I just went from a 4-core processor to a 8-core processor. Like, what used to take me 2 hours to do, like the State of the Stash videos, they literally take me 2 hours to render. What takes me 2 hours to render on my old machine, it takes me 5 minutes. Actually, no, I take that back. It's a little longer than that. It takes me 30 minutes, which is still like insane. 20-minute videos I can edit in 5. Like, this is incredible. And like every single day, I am finding out something new about this computer. And I have been telling my boyfriend like every single day, like, thank God you got me a new computer. Like, I had no idea what I was missing out on. Yeah, like, now I think you all understand the leaps and bounds, like, just like how continuously mind boggled I still am that I have this thing. And Alex helped for a few little pieces of it. Like, he helped me with the front panel connectors and things like that. I always seem to struggle with those, but everything else I built on my own. right now, my only problem is I'm afraid to upgrade to 11 because I have not heard good things about system update 24H. So, yeah. Like, I have not upgraded to that yet. So, I can't provide commentary on that yet. I'm just gonna sit and chill out on Windows 10, even though I know, like, my system is saying, like, hey, you need to go activate Windows. But, yeah, because of all the hardware changes and stuff, that's why you see that thing, like, you need to put your product key in again and all that. But, I think I'm just gonna sit here and chill for a minute until we get another patch from Microsoft that's gonna fix all the things that 24H is doing to people's computers right now. But other than that, like, I absolutely love it. and all of that mess, yes, I did actually have to install 14. No, it did not take 24 hours because my boyfriend's house, we have fiber optic here, 1 gig. It is like blazes fast, like lightning fast. I downloaded the whole entire game. Well, not the whole entire game because I didn't quite lose everything. I just had to get like the last expansion. It only took me 67 minutes. I am just like, the amount of time my old machine used to take. And then this one takes none at all. I am just like, I'm mind blown. I'm dazzled. I'm stunned. I'm fangirling over this, like how I would fangirl over getting like a Margaret Morales diamond painting. like, this is how much I legitimately love this thing. And I feel like if I go on any longer, like, it's just gonna get even more off the rails than what it already is. So, and we've gone just about an hour too, so I'm gonna leave it here and we're gonna call it a day. Hopefully, the next weapon chat is not gonna be as much of a chaotic mess. Fingers crossed. Please be kinder, 2025. Alright. See y'all later. Bye.